5 long years he's been dormant. And he's hungry. Jason's out there, watching. Always on the prowl for intruders.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Backtrack Cinema. In this video, we'll be reviewing Friday the 13th Part 2 from 1981. So get some popcorn, get comfy, and let's review Friday the 13th Part 2. Friday the 13th Part 2 was released in 1981, directed by Steve Miner, and starring Amy Steele, John Fury, and Steve Dash as Jason Voorhees. Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Backtrack Cinema, where we talk movies from the past that you know and love. Alright guys, we're on to Friday the 13th Part 2 review. And this is a movie that is definitely one that does things better, I would say. I think we got a better cast of characters. I think we got a better pace to this film. And this is where we get our introduction to Jason Voorhees, and we're given all this exposition on him and what we know him as a character. The lore they build up around him is all in this movie. This movie also has a great psychological component to it, so great stuff in this movie. But here at Backtrack Cinema, we want to know what your favorite Friday the 13th film is and what you think of this movie. Is it one of your favorites? Let us know in the comments. We'll have a great discussion about Friday the 13th Part 2. So we pick up 5 years later after the massacre at Camp Blood. A new counsel and training program begins at Panacac Lodge right near Camp Crystal Lake. As teenagers in the program start snooping around Camp Crystal Lake, they start getting killed violently one by one. One of the biggest things I really like about this movie is that you get this exposition on Jason. We get to know him as a character, but all through Paul's speech. What Jason's all about. It's very similar to me, like the Dr. Loomis speech on Michael Myers in the original Halloween. I feel like this is that version of this. You know, when Paul's by that campfire saying, you know, this is what Jason is. He's telling this ghost story. He's just trying to be a prankster and creep everyone out and get them all scared. But to us as an audience, we're given that exposition of Jason and this curse of Crystal Lake. And you don't go into his area. You go into his area, he's going to exact his vengeance on you for what happened to his mother, what happened to him. Later on in the movie, we find Jeff and Sandra sneaking around in Camp Crystal Lake, and this sets Jason off. And Jason goes on a huge killing spree that goes from this movie, the Friday the 13th Part 3, to the final chapter until his demise. And that's what Jason is. Jason's territorial. You poke the bear, he comes at you, and then he doesn't stop. That's what he's all about. And I think you have a much better paced movie. The pacing of this film is a lot quicker. Well, even though I love the original Friday the 13th, there's a lot of filler in that movie where it slows down a lot. It's also set up as a whodunit and doesn't do a very good job. In this one, there's no whodunit really. We know it's Jason. It's Jason Voorhees. He's come back. And there's two ways you can look at Jason here, I find, with fans. One is he never really drowned, and he's been this hillbilly in the woods for all this time, living off the wild, killing anybody who comes around his area, all that stuff. Or you take the side that I believe is that when Mama's head got chopped off, Jason rose out of the lake to finish her killing spree. And I think as a whole, we get better characters in this. I think they're more entertaining. I think there's a lot more comedic moments with them. There's a lot of similar characters. Like you could say, you know, the character of Ted, the funny jokester, is kind of like Ned. You got Jeff and Sandra, who are kind of like Jack and Marcy. And I really like Jeff and Sandra, even though they instigate Jason Voorhees and that's what causes this killing spree. I think they're just a really fun couple that you can relate to. You know, the way Sandra calls him a chicken shit, and he's like, you know, they're just so into each other. They're playful with each other. You know, when they're about to have sex and she throws his shirt at him and he's just playing the harmonica, rocking out before he gets laid and stuff like that. Love it. I love this couple a lot. They're cool. They're very cool. And then Ginny and Paul, really good characters, the both of them. You know, Paul, the man's man, teaching these camp counselors how to survive and how to teach the kids when they come to the camp and teach them how to be a camp counselor and such. And him and Ginny are just playful too, and Ginny's just so sarcastic. I like how she has Paul in the palm of her hand all the time, always playing pranks on him, and you know, just fucking with each other all the time. And we move on to Ginny. Ginny is awesome. Ginny's this child psychologist which comes into play later, who's got this very sarcastic sense of humor. She's fun, but she could also be very responsible. And she's got a curious, thoughtful nature to her. She's got this big heart, really. When they go out to the bar, when this is the night when everyone gets murdered, and they're just talking about the legend of Jason, and Ginny's just very curious, like, well, what if the legend's true? Let's put it in the real terms. And she gives all that. She just starts getting really curious and interested and almost caring about what happened to Pamela and Jason and their relationship, and like she's very serious about it, and they're just like laughing her off and everything like that. We get that great ending where Ginny tricks Jason, puts the sweater on, and uses a psychological component to trick Jason by, he's just very much like a little kid, and he just sees Mama when he sees that sweater. And how she tricks him and, says, Jason, Mother is talking to you. Yeah, Ginny is just a really cool character. And I just like that curiosity she has. Kills, again, are fantastic. Unfortunately, they couldn't get Tom Savini on this one. He went to work on The Burning. And y'all, if you've seen The Burning, the kills on that are actually fantastic. They're excellent. But the kills here are great, too. My favorite being Marks in the wheelchair. Not only is it a cool kill, a machete to the face, but this guy's in a wheelchair. This guy's helpless. Jason ain't fucking around here. This is what I mean. This character, he don't care who you are. And it's the way it's shot too, where the camera's coming up behind Mark, and we cut from in front of him to behind him. He gets the machete to the face and he rolls down the stairs. It's thunder and lightning and it flashes to white. It's just great the way it's shot. And there's other kills too that are pretty good. You get a guy getting a hammer to the head. You get some throat slashing. Crazy Ralph bites the dust in this one. And this is where they introduced Sackhead Jason. This was a Jason wears the sack head around his head, and this was always a cool look, even though it was kind of borrowed from The Town That Dreaded Sundown, kind of stolen from that. I still like it. I still like Sackhead Jason. And even in the remake, I think they did the Sackhead really, really well. I think a lot of people would like to see Jason back in the Sackhead through like a full feature-length film too, like wearing the thing through the whole thing, because there's just something kind of creepy and mysterious about it. But we get kind of like a Jason who's very awkward though at times. I know two different actors played him, Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash, and all you really diehard Friday fans, let me know in the comments. I believe Steve Dash is doing most of all the work in the third act, and Warrington Gillette did the jump scare at the end. This movie still has the classic Friday the 13th score. Still do a good job with the score in this, with the ma. It's all in there. I don't think the atmosphere is as good as it is in the first movie. It's still pretty good in here, creating that camp atmosphere, the feeling of isolation and all that jazz. And one thing this movie does well too is jump scares. I always found when I first watched this, I've watched it so many times now though, guys, right now. We've all watched this so many times, but there is a few times where Jason jumps out of nowhere that I think still works. And I think if you showed it to someone for the first time, I think it'd still kind of work. Although the third act does drag at spots for a little bit, I find, but it's still pretty good. One thing that always cracks me up though is when Jason pretends he's leaving and Ginny's under the bed, and I think you don't know if Ginny pissed her pants or if the rat pissed, but Jason's waiting for her on a chair, and it's just how he falls off this chair. This is a very awkward, clumsy Jason for some reason. And sometimes he looks really small. I don't understand I don't know if just the camera angles they use, because I know Steve Dash and Warrington Gillette weren't small people. But there's one shot I particularly like where Jason hears the piss or the freaking whatever, the rat or Ginny, and he's got his hands like this, and he does that. He cocks his head like that. I always like that. It's just a really cool shot, you know what I mean? One thing I think they did a disservice to, though, is the way they sent Alice out. They bring her in just to kill her. There's still a lot of fans who love Alice. She is the original Friday the 13th final girl, and I think they could have sent her off in a better way. At least gave her a fighting chance against the character of Jason. Ginny's definitely an upgrade. And when I say, Ginny's better, I'm not talking about the actress, Adrienne King. I'm just talking about the character, guys. I think Adrienne King's awesome, what she does for fans and all that stuff, and the crap she went through with being stalked by a real obsessed fan. Like, I love Adrienne King, man, but just I'm just talking about the character here. So this put it in context. When I'm talking to you guys. Well, yeah, guys, Friday the 13th Part 2 is another classic Friday the 13th film, introducing Jason, building up some lore, getting some great kills, and just a good old time with a slasher flick. So I'm going to give Friday the 13th Part 2 a B-. It's badass, man. Well, what about you guys? Let me know what you think about Friday the 13th Part 2. We'll have a good talk in those comments, and I will see you on the next video. You are watching Backtrack Cinema. My name is Jason, and I will see you in the movies, man. Cheers!